This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Have you been suffering and you can't find any answers?
I actually suffer from depression and anxiety. I also have had severe IBS problems. I actually had gone into a different doctor of mine because I thought maybe I was starting to go through menopause and had problems sleeping, and I wasn't resting well, and just everything felt wrong.
Red River Health and Wellness can help.
I am now back at work. It's easy. I get through things effortlessly at work, and it's been a life-changing for me. I'm sleeping better at night. I have full energy all day. I don't have those slumps where I need a nap. It's been amazing. It's been a good journey for me.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively, and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life.
Call Red River at 855-55-RIVER to schedule an in-depth consultation absolutely free. All appointments can be done remotely by FaceTime, Skype, or phone.
The following is a paid program of commercial time on KVNU. The information, offers, and claims are solely those of the sponsor and not the opinions of this station, its affiliates, management, or employees. It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without a homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the Garden Guide on another beautiful Saturday morning. We'll feel right along with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden, and a lot to talk about as we're heading into a beautiful Labor Day weekend. Won't be taking your calls for the show today, but we've got a lot of questions that we're going to be covering throughout the show today, including a few of my own questions. Mark, I was given an assignment. I had to talk to you about a couple things as we head into this Labor Day, because for many of us, it's kind of focusing our shift now as we move from summer to fall with the winter that's going to be coming up, and people are starting to think, okay, what do I got to do to start prepping the yard and the garden for possibility of snow, although we don't want it anytime soon.
And there's so many things to do as well. You know, it's not just harvesting, which is in prime season right now, but it is time to start thinking about, you know, what am I going to do to clean up the perennials, and, you know, do I need to prune some trees? Do I need to do a little bit of fertilizing? There's just a lot of different things that it's good to be reminded about that need to be done out in the yard. So a lot of things going on at Anderson Seed and Garden this weekend for sure, too. We just got some new perennials in, so these are fall-blooming perennials. So we've got some mums and some asters and a few other things to kind of add a little bit of color to your yard. Great time to plant these, and they look amazing. So those just came in this week. So a new batch of perennials just arrived this week, and they're all fall bloomers. But today we wanted to do a radio special. So for all of you who are listening on the radio today for Labor Day weekend, we're going to do our radio special. We've been doing our trees and shrubs at 35% off and half price if you pay with cash. But today we're going to do an extra 10%. So we're going to do them for 60% off just for those who are listening on the radio today. Make sure you mention that you heard Mark and Will on the radio this morning, and you'll get that extra 10%. So you can get our remaining trees and shrubs and evergreens 60% off if you pay with cash. So great time to get in there and get those deals before they disappear. We still have a good selection, but as we're doing our clearance sale, those good trees and shrubs are starting to disappear. So.
And this is a great time to get those plants in and get them established before winter.
Yeah, plenty of time to get them planted. So I know many, many years ago there was a park built here in Logan, and we had ordered the shrubs for Logan City, and this is probably 25 years ago. And it was really late, and we weren't sure if they were going to do really well. But by the time we got them in and they were able to pick those up and get them planted, it was the first part of December. And that park is amazing right now. So 25 years later, all those plants that they planted that year, as late as the 1st of December, did amazing.
And they're still there.
Oh, yeah. So they took off and did really well. So September, October, really great times to get out there and plant trees and shrubs because you can get them well established before winter sets in, and they'll winter over really well and just take off first thing in the next spring.
And how many times, and speaking of just about planting, how many times this year have you had people come up to you and they point to the beautiful flower gardens that you have set up along Center Street and said, I just want my yard to look like that? Because I was driving up Center Street yesterday and I thought, wow, here we are, 1st of September, and that's just gorgeous. It's still blooming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And with the cooler temperatures, they're blooming even more than they were, like, say, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So they're really coming out of it. And so that little bit of consistency on the fertilization and the right kind of soil really makes a big difference. But yeah, we've been maintaining all those plants this year, and they put those flower beds in 2 years ago, but last year the soil just didn't perform the way we liked it, and so we took some of the soil out of those planters and put some new planting soil in there, we mixed it right in. So we mixed it probably pretty close to 50-50 with the existing stuff, and we put a coconut core base in there as well too to help it retain the moisture, so we wouldn't have to water as much throughout the summertime, and then we've been fertilizing consistently, and the planters and the hanging baskets, everything just looks great. So we want to keep that hopefully through the marathon, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, and Latoja, and if we can keep Center Street looking really nice up until the first part of October, that would be our goal. It'd be really, really nice to keep it that way through the 10th or the 15th of October, and then at that point we're gonna get some frost and we're gonna lose those. We're gonna lose those plants.
Then we'll cap it. It caught my attention the other day driving up.
Well, the key is to start with a really good soil, and so we put an amazing soil in there, added the coconut core in with it to help it hold the moisture, but then we're fertilizing it twice a week. So we're out there fertilizing twice a week to keep the hanging baskets looking great on Main Street, but we're also hitting the fertilizer twice a week, Mondays, and actually we're doing Tuesdays and Fridays, and just having that consistent fertilization schedule going just really makes the plants perform and reach their full potential, which for the sweet potato vines, they're crawling across the sidewalk, and the flowers are just blooming like crazy. We had to really get after the insects there for a little bit this summer. We had tobacco budworms that were nibbling on the petunias, but they're all coming back now, and it looks great, and we can really enjoy them for another month out there.
Wow. Mark Anderson joining us in the KVNU studio for the Garden Guide. We're talking about all the questions that have come up over the last week as we're heading into the Labor Day weekend and really kind of marking the end of summer, but also the beginning of fall, and a lot of us beginning to focus on fall planting. Of course, gardens are still harvesting like crazy, and we definitely want to talk about that a little bit too, because last week we didn't get a chance to talk about garlic at all.
No.
We need to talk. In fact, why don't we just
number one on
hit
my
right
list
there
right here
at the top of the list? It is time to plant garlic.
It is. So we've got a lot of locally grown garlic, and most of it grown right here in Cache Valley, but we've got a little bit from southern Idaho as well too. We'll call them local as well also. And we have some organic varieties as well as some traditionally grown varieties. But actually the standard garlic that we've got is organically grown, but it's not certified. So part of ours are part of the bulbs that we've got are certified. Some are not, but they're all organically grown. But we've got 20 varieties of garlic in stock right now. So 20 different ones to choose from. And your two main categories of garlic are you've got your soft necks and your hard neck garlics. Now the hard neck garlics tend to have a little bit richer flavor. They keep well. They're going to keep somewhere between 4 and 6 months. And so they're not bad keepers, but they've got really rich, robust flavors. And I'd have to say, probably some of my favorite varieties of the hard necks would be Susan Delafield, German Red, Spanish Roja, and probably Music is really good. And I've got a new variety this year that I really want to try. I'm going to take some home and we're going to roast some and see how it turns out. It's called Purple Glazer, and it's got really purple skins to it. And so I can hardly wait to try it. I'm ready. I just got to take some home, and we're gonna roast it in the oven. And you put a little olive oil on it, and then you roast it in the oven. It comes out it comes out like garlic paste.
Oh.
It's amazing. Yeah, you can put it on bread and do garlic bread with it.
Yeah.
And, it's awesome. So purple glazer, can't wait to try it. The soft neck varieties, usually the flavor's not quite as rich on all the varieties, but they keep really, really well. And so they're longer storage type garlics. So anywhere between 6 to 10 months is what most of your soft necks will last. And if you go to the grocery store and you buy garlic and it doesn't have like a name or a variety on there, it's probably Gilroy. Gilroy is like the most common variety. You'll see it at the grocery stores. It's made to store for a long time. So we've got Gilroy at the store right now. But some of the soft neck varieties that I would recommend, we've got one that's called Susanville that lasts probably 8 months. It'll store for 8 months. Really good flavor to it. And then I've got a new variety that we've never carried before, but I've had quite a few customers come in and they've been using it. Not only did they plant it in their garden, but they've been using it in the cooking, and it's called Rosa di Sulmona, and they are coming back raving about it. Like the flavor is just amazing on it. So it's got a nice purple wrapper to it as well too. So those soft neck varieties are going to last longer. Hard neck varieties are going to give you a rich, robust flavor. And this year, most of the garlic bulbs tended to be a little smaller. I think it's because we had such a dry winter. So really dry winter. They didn't get the moisture they probably needed through the wintertime, and so the bulbs tended to not multiply nearly as much as they normally do. But hopefully this year we can help with that. So it's important that when you're planting, we follow the right process and we keep that soil moist up until the ground freezes, and that'll make a big difference. Have you done garlic before?
I've never done garlic. In fact, I was just going to ask you. So to really get a garlic plant established, where is the best place to plant, and how do you want to prep the soil?
Yeah. So full sun. So you're going to do it in a full sun location. So what a lot of our gardeners will do is once they decide to plant their garlic, they'll just till up one section of their garden. Maybe along the edge, where we'll get less disturbed through the winter time if the rest of their garden they're still harvesting. But you can just like till an area, add some organic matter, some soil building conditioner would be great. Any type of really well composted manure would be great. A soil prep. I like the soil building conditioner that we get from Kellogg. That's amazing. It's got a finely ground redwood bark. It's been composted with some poultry manure and bat guano, worm castings, kelp meal. It's got all kinds of good stuff in there, mycorrhiza, and work that into the soil. You want kind of loose, light, fluffy soil, not heavy clay soil. So more organic matter, the better. Coconut coir would be great to put in there as well, too, because it lasts so much longer than some of the other, like peat moss. It doesn't last nearly as long, so that would be great. And then what we recommend is you pick out the varieties of garlic that you want to do, and get the heads. There's usually anywhere between 8 and 12 cloves in each head, and we're going to plant the cloves about 4 to 6 inches apart and about 2 to 3 inches deep. And so what we'll do is we'll till the area where we're going to plant. I'll take a big hoe and just kind of make a little trench that we're going to put the garlic down, and we'll put the garlic in. A little fertilizer down on the bottom, something that's going to last a long time. Very slow release. The bulb food would be excellent that's used for like tulips and daffodils. That would be great because usually it has bone meal and blood meal and cottonseed meal, all kinds of good stuff in there. There's some great organic bulb foods as well too. You can just put that right in the bottom of the row when you're planting. Put those garlic in, like I said, about 2 to 3 inches deep, 4 to 6 inches apart. Cover them up and then water them thoroughly. Make sure they get watered really well. The best time for planting garlic in our area is probably the last week of September through the latter part of October. But a lot of people are buying it right now and saving it, getting ready to plant it a little bit later. We don't want to put it in too early because the weather's a little bit too warm. It'll really start to grow. So right around the 1st of October is prime time for replanting our garlic.
And so ideally what you want to do is get it in the ground just as the frost is going to be coming in.
Yeah.
And then that way it kind of locks it. And then as the snow starts to melt in the the spring,
yeah.
it can take off.
Yeah, and by planting in the first part of October, it has plenty of time to start to root before winter really sets in, and so it'll root and it'll start to multiply even throughout the winter time. And so it's not unusual for early October planted garlic to even start to emerge out of the soil before winter really sets in, and that's fine. That's fine. It won't be damaged at all by the winter, but it may emerge and come up a little bit. You might see some leaves coming up. That's no problem. But then it's going to really develop throughout the winter time, and then in the spring, as soon as the snow melts and the soil really starts to warm up, it's going to take off like crazy. And so that's why it's essential to get that fertilizer down on the bottom, because it's hard to feed it afterwards once it's really starting to come up. And the key is to make sure that if you planted the 1st of October, water it about every 2 weeks so that there's some good soil moisture when the ground freezes, which might be the middle of November, could be the first part of December. So we want to make sure that we continue to water, maybe once every 2 weeks or so from the time that you plant until we really get snow on the ground and winters here. And make sure that soil moisture is there for those bulbs. Same goes for tulips and daffodils as well, too.
Now, that was going to lead us into our next question, because last year we pulled all of our tulip bulbs out, dried them up really good, put them down in the basement, and totally forgot about them. Next spring, all of a sudden we looked and said, hey, we totally forgot to plant them. And so, best time to plant those tulip bulbs.
Yep, so tulips and daffodils, hyacinths, crocus, and a lot of other fall planted bulbs, they're going to be coming in any time now. Usually it's like the week right after Labor Day when they show up. So probably next week we're going to start getting some bulbs. I know the shipping is a little bit behind just because of the way things are in the world right now. So shipping's a little bit slow. So I would suspect in the next 10 days or so we're going to start seeing our bulbs showing up. And that's an exciting time of year at Anderson's because all the bulbs show up, and we have so many different ones to choose from. So usually we have about 70 kinds of tulips, and we've got about 15 or 20 kinds of daffodils and a whole bunch of hyacinths and crocus, and it just it gets you excited about spring again, when you see all those bulbs coming in. But best time to plant those is, again, latter part of September all the way through October into even the first part of November. And we can plant them. We've planted them as late as 1st of January. If we get that little January thaw in there, we had some bulbs left over. You could plant those, and it will work perfectly. It'll work great. So no worries about getting those planted, even if it's a little bit later, and they're going to be showing up anytime soon. So,
and are there best places for bulbs?
You can plant them in partially shady locations as long as they are shaded by like a tree or a shrub that drops its leaves. If you put them on the north side of a house and they're shaded by the house, they're still going to bloom. They're just not going to bloom as well as they would, and they're going to be very slow. They're going to be really late because it takes longer for the snow to melt on the north side of the house. And so, when you've got flowers on the south side of the house, they're going to be blooming 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks before the ones on the north side of the house, just because of the colder soils and the snow just never ever melts there. So you can definitely do them in a shadier location, but it's best if they're shaded by a tree or a shrub that's, early in the spring, there's no leaves on there, and so the sunlight sneaks through and warms the soil up, and the bulbs come up a lot faster. So it just really slows them. It slows them down for sure. And again, the bulbs like, well amended soil, loose, light, fluffy soil is perfect for the bulbs. And if you're doing, crocus, they're only about 2 or 3 inches below the surface. You don't have to plant those very deep. But tulips and daffodils, we want those at about 4 to 6 inches deep. We want to get them a little bit deeper so they're protected through the wintertime. But then when they come up, they've got some soil to really hold the stems up and to support the weight of the flowers that'll be coming up later. So 4 to 6 inches on tulips and daffodils, 2 to 3 inches on crocus, and hyacinths probably about the same as the tulips and the daffodils, about 4 to 6 inches.
So
should be good.
Time to start looking for those. They should be coming in the store in the next couple of weeks.
And usually we have a couple racks that we just completely fill with bulbs. And one side's just all tulips, and the other side's usually daffodils and hyacinths and crocus, and just so many different colors to choose from. And they're all in bulk boxes, so you can pick and choose which colors you want or which style of bulbs. And it's easy to forget, I guess, that tulips don't all bloom at the same time. You've got early season that are blooming about the first part of April. You've got some mid-season that are blooming the latter part of April into the first part of May, and then you've got some late-season tulips that are blooming, between Mother's Day and Memorial Day. And so you've really got a wide range of tulips that you can plant, different bloom times, different flower shapes, lots of different colors. But if you plant it right, you can have bulbs blooming just after the snow melts in the spring. Snowdrops will pop up really early. Then the crocus come on late March, early April. Then you've got tulips and daffodils coming on in, early April through mid-April and even into the first part of May. And you've got your later tulips. So really from middle of March until June 1st, you can have bulbs blooming in your yard. Yeah.
And they're so easy. I mean, you really don't have to do much with them.
It's about as easy as it gets. And even if you think you've got a black thumb, you don't have a green thumb, and you just struggle planting plants, with bulbs, it's as simple as digging a hole, putting a little fertilizer in there, dropping the bulbs in, covering it up, watering them, and that's it. Yeah. Mother Nature takes care of the rest,
And then they occasionally pull them out, dry them out, and then put them back in. Let them start all over.
And it's really great if you can do that in the fall, where you pull the bulbs up, let them dry, leave the tops on them. The strength of the tops will go back into the bulb, feed the bulb, and you can even leave the stem up as well too. So last time our bulb expert Hank was here from Holland, he said, when the flowers are done blooming, cut the flower off, but leave the stem.
The stem.
Yeah, leave the stem and leave the leaves up, and then the stem and the leaves will feed the bulb. The strength of the leaves will go right back into the bulb and prepare it for next year as well too. So he said to leave those up. So, but we have in the past, we have gone through and we've taken the flowers off and then let the leaves kind of start to die down, dig the bulbs up, store them in a bushel basket or a cardboard box somewhere down in the basement, cellar, somewhere where it's cool and dry, and we'll store those through the whole summer, and then 1st of October, out there planting them in the garden again. Yeah, it's nice to be able to rejuvenate that soil, add some soil amendment, put some compost in there, and work that into the soil, loosen and lighten that soil up, and the bulbs they'll just do much, much better for you.
Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden joining us. It is the Garden Guide. We've got about 4 minutes left, Mark. I know it's not necessarily garden and lawn, but we got to talk about spiders.
Yes.
Because it seems like we are seeing a lot of spiders.
I had someone in the store yesterday, and they're like, I put traps out, and last night there was like 20 spiders in my trap. I'm gonna spray too. I mean, the traps do a great job. So we've got insect traps that you can use inside your house. They're super, super sticky. They are pre-baited, so the insects are attracted to come in there. And the deal with the spiders is, when they see another insect caught in the traps, they think, ooh, free lunch, and so they're seeing the free buffet, and so they'll go in to catch that, to have a snack, and they'll get caught in the traps as well too. But I've had customers bring in the traps that they've had in their basement or in their pantry or their garage or whatever, and they're so covered with spiders that there's nowhere else where another spider could get stuck. I mean, there's just like so many on there. And so this year they're very, very aggressive. It seems to be that the spiders and the wasps, like their populations kind of seem to coincide with each other a little bit. So when we have like a high population of wasps and hornets, it seems like we have a high population of aggressive house spiders as well too. And this is the time of year where they're feeling the cooler nighttime temperatures as well. They know that the daylight hours are getting shorter, and so they're out looking for mates. They're out looking for places to hang out for the winter time, and so they're coming inside. So between the traps, by putting the traps out, and they work great, very inexpensive. You can buy 5 traps for under $10. And you set those traps up, and the spiders are attracted. They'll get stuck in there. But if you want to do some spraying as well, too, probably our favorite product is called Seismic. And the Seismic is a synthetic pyrethroid. So it's a naturally occurring insecticide, but they have recreated it in the lab. And they've created it so that it's microencapsulated. So with the microencapsulation process, it releases the insecticide very, very, very slowly. So you'll get a 3 to 4 month residual out of the Seismic, as well as a quick knockdown but it makes the product super, super safe to use inside. So you can use it indoors, you can use it along baseboards, you can use it in the pantry, you can use it in the bathroom, underneath the sink, behind the garbage can, wherever you think you want to really go after the insects that are coming inside. And not only will it kill spiders, but it gets earwigs, and it gets grasshoppers, and it gets ants, you name it.
Everything.
Box elder bugs. And it really does a great job. Doesn't smell, doesn't stain. It's as low of toxicity as there is for any insecticide that's out there, natural or chemical, and very, very, very safe to use around pets, kids. It's labeled for use in restaurants and food preparation areas, and in hospitals and rest homes. It's really a great product. Once it dries, it'll stay right there, but it won't cause any problems for you. But the insects definitely will find out that it's there.
Talking about spiders and talking about planting, gardening, lawn care. It's the Garden Guide coming up here at the bottom of the hour break, but immediately following the break, for those of you listening, we have a special radio special for you at Anderson Seed and Garden. We'll give you all the details coming up next. We'll feel right with your KVNU News update this hour. It's brought to you by Logan Extermination. Logan City Mayor Holly Daines announcing this week that the city had received more than $4 million from UDOT in active transportation funding for a bike pedestrian underpass to be built at 600 South Main Street. The Utah Transportation Commission approved that project along with 8 others statewide, totaling $35 million of legislated dollars. Mayor Daines said the city has been working on the project for nearly 4 years. The underpass will connect more than 17 miles of existing east and west trail segments with the new trail sections at the Riverwalk and Gateway developments, which will allow for additional alternative transportation, commuting, and increased safety for pedestrians and cyclists. The city anticipates the project will be put out for bid spring of next year, with construction scheduled to begin sometime in the summer or fall. And a group of state senators gave Governor Spencer Cox 3 suggestions about the future of Utah's response to the pandemic during a closed-door meeting that was held this past week. KUTV reports that Senate President Stuart Adams said that during the meeting, the governor presented the current data showing a spike in cases and hospitalizations. Adams says the governor asked the senators for input, and they gave 3 suggestions. The first suggestion was to better promote and educate Utahns on monoclonal antibody treatment. The second suggestion was to better educate people over the age of 70 about increasing risks of breakthrough cases. And the last suggestion was to keep pushing vaccinations. Well, patchy, smoky skies expected to continue through this holiday weekend as daytime temperatures are going to stay right around the mid-80s and gradually warm up as we head towards Labor Day, with overnight temperatures staying right around the low 50s. I'm Will Feelwright for KVNU News.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Ent. Naomi Osaka's U.S. Open title defense ended in New York after losing to 18-year-old unseeded Canadian Leylah Fernandez. Holding back tears at a post-match press conference, Osaka was candid. Earlier this year, she pulled out of the U.S. Open for a mental health break. She said Friday she may step away from the game.
I think I'm going to take a break from playing for a while.
Osaka added she doesn't know when she'll play again. Another extra innings marathon between the Dodgers and Giants, but it was San Francisco taking the win in the 11th.
2 down, bottom 11. Here's the pitch. Buster hits a shot towards second. Over the field to Turner. Spins around, throws it first. And he pulled Will Smith off the bag. Posey's safe.
The call on KNBR, the winning run scored, and the Giants grabbed first place in the NL West after the 3-2 win over L.A. This is ABC.
This message brought to you by Cache Valley Extermination.
Spiders camping out under your bed. Wasps, they think they own the place. Box elder bugs, the never-ending invasion. Spiders, wasps, and box elder bugs are lousy house guests. They aren't cuddly, they bite, sting, and if left uncontrolled, will claim your home as their own. These pests need to die, and they need to die now. I'm Bryce with Cache Valley Extermination, and we're ready to fight for your home. No contracts, no BS. If an insect is bugging you, we kill it. It's what we're good at.
Visit CacheValleyExtermination.com. That's CacheValleyExtermination.com, where for over 30 years they've killed the things that bug you the most.
Saturday, September 11th is the National Day of Service and Remembrance, a chance to help others in tribute to those killed and injured on September 11th, 2001. To mark the day, everyone is invited to help clean headstones and memorials throughout our local cemeteries. We need volunteers from families, individuals, churches, and the community. This project is suitable for all ages. Saturday, September 11th, beginning at 9 a.m. Go to justserve.org, enter your zip code, and search for National Day of Service and Remembrance.
The Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Terrence Howard. Colorectal cancer is the second leading cancer killer, but you can prevent this disease. If you're 50 or older, get screened. Please, do everything that you can to stay around for yourself and for your family. Screening saves lives.
A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back. It is the Garden Guide here on KVNU. Will Feel Right, along with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden, talking all things garden, lawns. We even were talking spiders in the last segment, talking about just the influx of insects that we're seeing throughout the yard that are now trying to invade our home. And Mark, we mentioned this radio special last hour or about 30 minutes ago, but we need to mention it again because it's happening today only for those listening to the show.
Yeah, so if you're listening to the show today, we're going to give you an extra 10% discount on our clearance sale on our trees and shrubs. So we're talking fruit trees, shade trees, evergreens, flowering trees, flowering shrubs, evergreen shrubs. They're all on sale right now, and if you pay with cash, you can get them for half price. But since you've been listening to the radio show today, just for today only, for Labor Day weekend, come in and mention that you heard us on the radio, Will and I, and we'll give you an extra 10%. So you can get 60% off all of our remaining trees and shrubs and vines, and that is if you pay with cash too. So make sure you plan on paying with the cash, but I'll give you an extra 10% discount. So instead of paying 50%, you'll only you'll actually save an extra 10, so you only have to pay 40%.
40%.
Yeah. So it's going to save you 60% on our remaining plants. And there's some good shrubs and trees left. I just walked through the greenhouse and looked at what was out there, and there's some great looking plants still. So.
And as we were mentioning, good time to be able to plant those, too.
Yeah, good time to plant.
We're starting to get a little bit more moisture. We could use a little more from Mother Nature, but we're starting to finally get into to fall when we're hoping to see some more moisture.
We do have perennials on sale as well, too. They are buy one, get one free. But the new perennials that just arrived this week, we've got some brand new perennials that came in. They're fall bloomers, so we've got some mums, we've got some asters. There's a bunch of really great-looking plants that are blooming right now. Those will not be included in the sale. So just a reminder that a lot of our perennials are buy one, get one free. But the brand new ones that come in, they'll be regular price, so they will not be included in the sale. So, but they look amazing. They look really great. So some nice color to add to the gardens for fall. But radio special. Make sure and mention it. You can get our remaining trees and shrubs 60% off if you pay with cash instead of just the 50. So not so bad.
Well, we've been talking about gardening. We're talking about lawn. Let's jump back into the garden because I know right now it is harvest season and onions and potatoes are hitting that peak time for harvesting.
Yeah, I've got my list of things I've got to do at home, and number one on the list is like pull the frames of honey off the hives.
Yes.
And then it's like dig up the onions, get those ready to store, dig up the potatoes, get those ready to store. And they do take a little bit of added extra effort to prep them so that they'll store throughout the wintertime, but then you can keep them for months. Squashes, winter squashes, they're not ready quite yet. So I actually had somebody called yesterday and was asking, can I start harvesting my winter squashes? Like, well, if they're ripe, you could start eating them, but we really want to let them cure a little bit longer before we try and store them. And so the idea with the squash is we want to put them in a warm, dry location, let them cure for a while. after that first frost has killed the plants down. So we're going to let them just stay out in the garden for a while. But the onions, end of August, 1st of September is prime time for harvesting your onions. And it's also a great time to plant new onion seed for next year. So if you want to plant some onions to prepare for next year, great time to plant those from seed right now. But we're harvesting our onions this week. And so we're going to dig our onions up. We're going to turn them upside down out in the garden so that the root end is exposed, leave them out there for a couple days, and then we're going to take those and put them in a warm, dry location in the shed or in the garage or in the barn, and we're going to let them cure. We're going to let them just dry there for probably 3 to 4 weeks. And they'll develop that hard outer wrapper skin on the onions. It'll be red if they're a red onion. It'll be white if they're a white onion, or golden if it's a yellow onion. And once that hard outer wrapper skin has developed, then we'll trim the tops off. We'll throw them in some onion bags. And we've got onion bags, mesh onion bags to store the onions in, and also burlap sacks at Anderson's. And they're like 75 cents each. So we sell those, and you can come in and pick up the bags. They're really inexpensive. You can store your onions that way. Once you harvest them and get them cured, we're going to put them in the bags. We're going to hang them up in a cool, dry location down the basement, down the cellar. They're cool and dry and up off the ground. So usually we'll put like a nail onto a beam or something and hang them from that, so you get that good air circulation around
all
the onions.
Way around.
Yeah, and then they'll keep a lot longer that way. So that works out very, very well. With the potatoes, you don't have to go through that curing process. You just go out there, dig them up. I like to dig them up and bag them the same day. You can, if your soil's kind of wet, you've got a little bit of mud stuck to the potatoes, you can just kind of rub that dirt off on the potatoes, put them in the burlap sacks, and then they go directly into the storage location. The potatoes actually do a little bit better with a little bit higher humidity. We don't want it like super dry in there for the potatoes like we do for the onions and the squash. We want a little bit higher humidity. So, even a 15 to 25% humidity for the potatoes works great, but cool. Somewhere around 40 degrees, 40 to 45 degrees, 50 degrees is fine. But the cooler the better, but no freezing temperatures. And, just dig those potatoes up right into the burlap sacks and right into your storage location. And in many cases, you can get those to store for 6 months. Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
You can eat potatoes all winter long.
One year I remember, if you don't even do the bag route, but my wife, I think she planted about just 15, maybe there were 24 onions.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a big crop, but she just took an old pair of nylons.
Yeah.
And then would just drop an onion in, then tie a knot off on it, separate it.
Right.
And then she just hung those down in our cellar and allowed it to be able to circulate that air through them. And then as she wanted an onion, she'd just go down and grab a pair of scissors and cut off
trim it off. Yeah.
Yep, and be able to do it that way. If you're only going to and I think she may have had maybe 24 onions that she used for about a month or so after the season. We just had just one little small space in the garden, and she's like, "I'll just throw a couple onions down there."
Yeah.
So a lot of ways you can do that, but the main thing is you want to just circulate air around those onions.
Cool, dry air. And get them up off the ground, and they'll keep much longer for you. And there's nothing like your own homegrown onions. You can go buy onions at the store, but once you've grown yourself, always taste better. So that's always good. So easy to harvest and store those onions and those potatoes. And really, we don't want the potatoes to sit in the ground for the rest of this month. Potatoes up in Idaho, they're not going to be harvesting for another month. Usually it's the first or second week of October. Big potato harvest is going on in Idaho. Our potatoes mature in a much shorter time period. So instead of taking 120 days or 150 days even, our potatoes are ready in about 100 to 120 days. And so by mid-August, end of August versus September, they're ready to be harvested. So now's the time to harvest those, because if you leave them in the ground and we get some cool temperatures, we get some more moisture, we get a little rainstorm that comes through, the potatoes are going to start growing again. And then you're going to have unusual growth shapes on your potatoes. They're not going to be, oblong and oval. You're going to have these knobs that start growing out of the potatoes, and we definitely don't want that as well too. I did notice on my potatoes I had a little bit of scab on the potatoes this year, and it looks like a insect has tunneled kind of along the skin, and just underneath the skin, but it's not actually an insect, even though the damage kind of looks like an insect has done that. It's actually a disease. It's a disease that comes in with with sometimes manure. Can come in from potatoes if you've used the same potatoes year after year after year. You got some from your neighbor to plant or something. But once that fungus gets into the soil, it kind of spreads in high pH soils, and our soil around here is very high pH, so it'll just continue to spread, and it will just damage the exterior of the potato, so it doesn't keep quite as well, and it also can kind of flavor the potato just a little bit. But you can peel it off, and the potato's just fine underneath it, so you can peel that scab off. But the best way to prevent that scab is to use sulfur, and is to put sulfur out in your garden. So if you can lower the pH of the soil by adding soil sulfur, it'll pretty much stop the scab from appearing on your potatoes. So we had a little bit of scab in our potatoes this year, so I'm going to make sure this fall when I fertilize, I'm going to do a heavy dose of sulfur, where I think I'm going to plant the potatoes next year, and then I'll probably do the sulfur again next spring, and I'll treat the potatoes a little bit for disease control also, and we'll try and get that scab under control. But we see a little bit of it every single year. I've always got gardeners that are bringing samples of potato scab in, but it really looks like an insect has kind of tunneled right along the exterior of the potato.
But it just it has to do with the disease.
Yeah. It's a fungal disease that gets into the soil. And like I said, it comes in from manure, especially cow manure is kind of where it will introduce it into your soil, and then it just kind of sticks around indefinitely.
And a lot of us are guilty of that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not necessarily a disease, but one of the other issues that you'd mentioned to me off air before we began is mildew that you're seeing a lot of.
Yeah, a lot of powdery mildew, and it's starting to kill off zucchinis and squashes and melons and cucumbers. And this is the time when we're enjoying the harvest as much as possible, and so a little bit of a preventative fungicide would be perfect for right now to keep those plants alive and keep them growing. So I've got I've got about 4 or 5 pumpkin vines that are just producing like crazy, and the plants look awesome, and I just want them to keep going until we get that frost end of this month, first part of October. And a little bit of mildew starting to show up, and it showed up about a week ago, and I was busy, had a bunch of other things going on, haven't sprayed, and now it's spread.
It's taking its toll.
It's spread about 10 times more than than it was when I first noticed it. So I got to get up.
And what does it look like at first?
It looks like somebody sprayed flour on your plants. So like they mixed up flour and water and just went out there and just sprayed it on the plants. So it looks like there's flour on the plants, but it will propagate, it will spread, and it will spread and cover the entire leaves. And what it does is it kills those individual leaves, and so then the plant can't photosynthesize and can't build up that strength, and so the vine just kind of starts to die down. And we don't want them to die down this early. In like 3 or 4 weeks, that's fine if they want to die down, but right now we want them to continue to grow for a couple more weeks. So great idea to get out there and do a little bit of spraying. So a little bit of copper soap would be excellent, very safe to use, like right up to the minute you're going to harvest. Complete disease control from Monterey would be excellent also. Those two would be very, very good. F-stop is safe to use on all kinds of fruits and vegetables. So there's a lot of good options out there to spray to get the mildew under control. But, we want those pumpkins and the winter squashes and the zucchinis to keep producing. You might be tired of zucchini by now, but...
Never can be tired of it,
mine are just going nuts still. So that extra rain we got a couple of weeks ago, a couple inches of water, really kind of perked everybody's plants right back up. And the lawns, you can't believe how much better everybody's lawn looks.
I know. I've got to mow it again.
Yeah, from that 2 inches of... two inches of water we got in that 1 week and cooler temperatures, it just has perked everybody's lawn, just right back up. Looks good.
Now, one other plant, and we don't talk about it very often. It's kind of more of a specialty plant, and some of us are kind of crazy for liking to grow it. But rhubarb.
Yeah,
I have a couple rhubarb plants, and when are the best times to break? So this one we planted in our home 15 plus years ago, and it's just continued to produce every year. But it's been there so long that I'm thinking it's about time that I need to break it up, because with rhubarb, you know how it just continues to send up stalks and then they die, and it just kind of it almost composts within itself. And so I'm realizing it's about time to break that up. When's the best time to do that?
So fall would be excellent. So
Okay.
anytime in the next 6 weeks would be great. Dig that clump up, and just try and estimate how big that plant is, and dig up the root system. And then you don't even have to be really careful or gentle with it. You can just take the shovel and just cut it into 4 pieces.
Just whack it.
Yeah, just chop it up, and then spread it to a couple different spots. Maybe give one to the neighbors, and it's it's pretty.
Pass it around.
It's a very resilient plant. Yeah. So dig that up, divide it, and then share it with whoever you want to. And then when you get ready to plant, the rhubarb really likes heavy compost, and so you could basically dig a hole to plant it back in there, dig it extra wide, and then mix 50-50 compost in with it. Like a poultry manure would be great. Even a really well composted steer would be fine, but mix it about 50-50 in with the soil that you took out of the hole, and amend that soil, and then plant the rhubarb right back into it. Water it really well. Hit it with some root stimulator to get it going for next year. And you may be able to harvest some of it next year. That's where we've divided it, but it's probably going to be the second year where it really comes back again. Yeah, and goes crazy. So it'll come up and it'll do all right next year. Probably won't have a whole lot of production off of it, but then after that, it's gonna go gangbusters.
I know a lot of people up in the Montpelier area, Preston, where they just get those brutally cold temperatures, and the one thing that they can't kill. One thing that Mother Nature just can't kill is rhubarb.
Yep. So when we built our home, we acquired the property right next to my parents, and there was a pasture there, and they had a big rhubarb plant in there. And so the year we built the home, we dug the rhubarb up because Dad wanted to make sure move it out into his garden. So we dug it up, moved it to his garden, and it took off in his garden and did great, and it came right back in the spot where we dug it up because we had missed part of it.
Missed part of the root.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's still here. So then that fall we did it again. We dug it up, moved it, gave that one away because Dad now had a couple plants and it was going crazy. Dug it all up, got it all cleaned out, and the next spring it came back again. I mean, for like 3 or 4 years, it just kept coming back. Yeah. Even after we thought we dug it all up, it just kept coming back.
So resilient.
It finally never came back when we put our driveway in and just concrete over the top of that section, and then it didn't come back.
It's probably still growing underneath your driveway.
It could be, it could be. But it was at least 3 years that we tried to dig that sucker up, and it did. It just kept coming back. So.
Ours was handed down to us from an old, is one of the settlers, I think, of North Logan that had it, passed it on to my parents, and they cut me off a piece and brought it to
They are very
my
resilient,
house.
very resilient. So, yeah.
Well, some of the other things that people have been coming in and talking to you at Anderson Seed and Garden, as we have about 8 minutes left.
We were talking about that nice moisture that we got mid-August with the 2 inches of rain and the cooler temperatures. We're getting the cooler temperatures right now, which is amazing. We love low 80s for early September. It just doesn't get any better than that. But this is the time when your lawn needs a little bit of TLC after a hard, hot, stressful, dry, drought-ridden summer. And this is when we can really get the lawn perked back up, get some strength back to it for next year. And if you are concerned about, you had to water too much this year to keep it green, you want to not have so much lawn, or you don't want to have to water as much, boy, there's some new varieties we can work into the soil and work into your existing grass that won't need as much water but will still stay green and nice. I mean, there's something to be said about having a nice lawn. It helps cool things down. It helps trap dust and dirt and smoke and ash that's in the atmosphere. I mean, it pulls all that stuff out. And so, lawns will really cool your property down and really help, the soil retain moisture, and it helps with a lot of different things. I mean, grass is really very beneficial, but we don't want to have to water it all the time to keep it green. So there's a lot of varieties of grass that you can incorporate into your lawn that will look green, look beautiful, mow, soft, it's great grass, but it uses half as much water as what you've had to use in the past, say for your older Kentucky bluegrass lawn. So this is a prime time to do a little bit of aeration. overseed with some new varieties of grass, like a turf type rye or a turf type fescue, or even a rye fescue blend like our Mark's Mix, and incorporate some of these more disease resistant, insect resistant, drought tolerant grasses into your existing lawn, and you'll be surprised how much greener it will be, how much less water you'll have to use, and how much more resilient your grass will be compared to what you've had to deal with in the past. So great time to do that and fertilize. Right after Labor Day is when we talk about our fourth step of our lawn application. This is the time to fertilize your lawn. So heat's gone, still going to stay warm hopefully for another month or 6 weeks, but not 90s, low hundreds. We're not going to see that anymore. 70s and 80s are what we're going to get. So this is when we want to put some fertilizer on the lawn, get that watered in, really build some strength back up in the grass. Of course, you're going to have to mow, but right now, if you start dropping your mower blade, it's going to make your lawn thicken up. And so where it's not so hot, we don't need to leave the grass as tall. We can start mowing closer. And by mowing your grass closer, it will start to spread more. It'll thicken up more. You won't get quite as deep a root system like you develop through the summertime by leaving it tall, but it's going to start to really thicken in. And that fertilizer right now, like a slow release nitrogen, I would suggest probably the Green Maker from Fertilome or the 23-316, which is like our Anderson's best. And it's got 5% iron in there. Both those products have 5% iron in there. Really green the lawn up, make it look nice without having to mow all the time. But it's going to build the strength of the root system, build the stems and the leaves of the grass back again after that hot, stressful summer. A little humate wouldn't hurt either. So like a humate and a fertilizer application. If you've got a lot of weeds, this is prime time for controlling weeds as well, too. So morning glory, thistle, mallow, clover, dandelions, they've kind of taken over sections of the lawn this summer because of the stress. And some of the bare spots, those weeds really just kind of jump right back in there. And September and October is like the best time of year, like hands down, the best time of year to get after those weeds. So Weed Free Zone, Spurge Power, those would be excellent options for controlling pretty much all your weeds. And you use a little surfactant in there with it. And even if it rains 5 minutes after you've sprayed, you're still going to get amazing results with those products because they're rain fast in a short amount of time. Throw a little surfactant in there with it, makes it work even better, makes it more rain fast. And you'll see some really, really great results controlling weeds this time of year as well, too.
And I hear the debate often, fall, spring, which is the best time to aerate?
Fall's the best time. Yeah,
it is.
Absolutely the best time. And the reason is because the grass is coming out of dormancy in the springtime. And so it's really starting to perk up, and then you aerate it and you just like trash it, and rip all the root system out. And it's really hard on the grass. In the fall, grass has been growing all year, and it's going into dormancy. And so it does a lot less damage to the grass to aerate in October. You're going to have those plugs all over your lawn. You don't even have to rake them up. You just leave them out there. Through wintertime, they'll all decompose and break down, and they won't even be there in the spring. You won't even have to do anything with it. But what it does is it opens up the soil so that water and nutrient can go down into those holes. And then it also opens up the soil so that the root system has a new place to just grow into. So the roots will just go right into those holes and fill that in, and it really makes your grass much, much more healthy by aerating. But fall is hands down the best time for convenience, but also because the grass is going into dormancy, and so it does a lot less damage to the grass. It recovers all through the wintertime, and in the spring it's just like you hadn't even aerated at all. Aerate in the spring takes a couple months for the grass to recover when it should be perking up, for the year. So fall, the best. Spring, I think we've kind of gotten in the mode of aerating in the spring because that's when the scouts would go out and they'd do the aerations for everybody. And that's not because it was the best time to do it. It's because it was the most convenient time for the scouts to do it because they're trying to make money so they can go for summer camp. Yeah. So they're like going out there in March and April saying, hey, this is a great fundraiser because we're going to go camp in June. Well, September, October, they're not thinking about camp for for the next year at that point. They should be, but but they don't. So.
Well, the lawn is definitely time to start getting some work done. So we've got a minute left, and let's remind everybody of that radio special one more time for today only.
So for today, radio special is trees and shrubs and evergreens. They're all on sale for half price. But if you mention that you heard the radio show today and you enjoyed it as well,
yes,
then you get an extra 10% off. So we'll give you 60% off if you pay with cash, if you mention that you heard the radio show today. So that's on our remaining trees, flowering trees, fruit trees, shrubs, evergreens, vines. And we do have some really nice perennials as well, too. They're buy one, get one free, but we just got a new shipment of brand new colorful